Hey. Hey, hi, hello, welcome back. Let's talk mental health today. So, my mental health has been a journey that I've been on for about a year, and I wanted to talk about it. I've wanted to document it for a while, and I almost thought about making it into a short film, and then I never did. And now it's been a year since I've started taking my mental health seriously. So we got a lot to catch up on, and I think I'm gonna do monthly updates-ish, maybe? And yeah, let's talk about it. So, my mental health journey starts at birth, probably like most people's, but really it started getting triggered in, let's say, high school, grade 10. I noticed that I would be really anxious around peers. I had a sense of not belonging, not wanting to be alive, not wanting to necessarily off myself, but just a sense of not wanting to exist. Like, if you could just zap people out of existence, I would have been the first to volunteer. And I lived like that until about 2016, when I went up to Fort McMurray to be a first responder. And up there I experienced a lot. I was 18, I had just gotten my license, and 5 days into my employment, the wildfire started, and I got evacuated 7 times. And then I went on days off, and that was within 2 weeks. And in that time, I blamed myself a lot for the fire, just thinking that we could have done something different. And so the spiraling kind of began. And I thought it was normal. I thought, you know, like, feeling the way that I do about myself and society in general, and like stressing out while driving and not being able to breathe correctly when you're in a crowded situation was normal. Because it was, for me. And then fast forward to 2018, my last year of university, and I was doing a project for my business class, Business 101, and it was the night before it was due, and I started breaking down. I started sobbing because I felt like a failure. I felt like it wasn't going to come together. I felt like my peers' grades were on my shoulder, and I felt like if we failed this, that I was a failure. And then I started spiraling, and I ended up dropping out of college. I took a leave of absence, as I like to call it, and it started off as like, I'll just take one more year off and like really come to terms with everything. I had lost my grandpa, who was one of my favorite people in the entire world. He had a laugh that could make anybody laugh. He had such high energy. He was just such a lovely person. And the world hasn't been the same without him. So we fast forward. I had dropped out of university, and I had a summer job that carried me all the way to December. And in January, I started looking for employment. I went on EI, started looking for employment, and I found this job that seemed promising enough. Like, it was in childcare, and I have a decent amount of experience in childcare. Like, I'm not somebody that could teach your children, like, how to speak, but, like, I have a good understanding. I have good enough levels. I have years of experience. And I found that it wasn't an environment that I wanted to work in, so I quit. And then I worked in a restaurant and got fired. And then I moved on to a bridal shop, and it was okay. Management sucked in all 3 of these places. So I ended up leaving and going to the automotive industry. And it was fine. management sucked, and I moved on to another restaurant where it was great. I thought I found my people, and at this point, I had a dog, Nova. We got her. And it was okay, and then I got fired for no reason other than the manager didn't like me. And then I went and I was like, you know what, we gotta take some time because it was just one thing after another. I just couldn't take it anymore. This is when I started to notice more regular panic attacks. I had experienced them in the past, but now they started becoming almost a regular thing. And I started noticing that I did not feel the best about myself. So I took some time, and after Christmas I got a job offering at the bridal shop again. And the management had changed, and it was great. And I was ecstatic. And so I ended up working at this bridal shop for over a year. COVID had hit, and during COVID I lost track of myself. I ended up in the hospital for heart palpitations, and it felt like fire on my chest, and I can't sleep on my back, and I couldn't, and it was just worse because then I would get sleep paralysis and I couldn't breathe and all these things. And they chalked it up to stress and sent me on my way and told me, you know, have you tried having a drink before bed? And I was like, I used to be a functioning alcoholic. I don't want to do that. And so I just kind of brushed it off as like poor bedside manner, which is really what it is. And then last December, I decided I'm gonna start my YouTube channel back up. This is a new channel, so it's my other channel that I don't use anymore, that has all my videos privated, I believe. And on day 3, day 2, day 1, one of the first days of Vlogmas, I had a breakdown. And I don't know what caused it. To this day, I had back-to-back panic attacks. I had anxiety attacks. I felt very wanting to unalive myself. I felt like the world would have been a better place if I didn't exist. And the only two things that kept me from doing something that would have wiped me out was the fact that I have a dog and my boyfriend. And I remember that night sitting outside in the freezing cold, hitting my head against the front bumper of my car. And that's when I knew I needed help. So I booked an appointment. And when they called to confirm the appointment, I didn't pick up, so they canceled. The psychologist, those two words don't mean anything to me. They canceled my therapy, we'll call it therapy, appointment. And so, again, moved on from it. And then in January, same thing happened, but worse. I had a panic attack in a grocery store, I've had panic attacks in IKEA, I've had panic attacks at work, and it was just getting worse. And it got to the point where, like, I didn't want to go into work. I had too much anxiety around taking dishes out of my room because, like, what if I found more dishes, and what if I got overwhelmed and I couldn't take all the dishes down at one time, but what if I broke the dishes? And it just started spiraling. And so I booked another appointment, and again, when they called to confirm it, I didn't pick up. And finally I sat down with my boyfriend and I was like, look, I need help, and I don't know how to find this help. But I think the key is to book an appointment when I'm not in a spiraling mindset, when I'm not like, oh my god, you need help. Like, when the sirens are flashing and you're seeing red and the world is like spinning, that's when you know you need help. but you should have probably gotten help before. That's like, you know, in a car accident and you're like, ah, that's fine, and then you go to stand up and you can't stand. You should have called for help first before you try to do anything. And so I was like, I'm gonna book an appointment. And I waited until my mental health seemed better, like when I wasn't having a panic attack. And I booked the appointment. And finally, they called back. And they called back when I was on my way to work, and I didn't look at the caller ID because it was hooked up to my Bluetooth. And finally, I booked the appointment. And the reason why I didn't cancel that appointment was because there was a cancellation fee. It was a free appointment, but if you didn't show up, you had to pay. And so I was like, I don't have $75 just laying around to pay people for not doing anything. So I went to the appointment. And there, I talked about all the ways that I wanted to unalive myself. I talked about my stressors. I talked about how I feel worthless and a burden and all these things. And there I got an official diagnosis for generalized anxiety, PTSD, depression, and suicidal ideation. And I also got a prescription for an SSRI. So basically medication that would lessen my depression. And the way that the doctor explained it to me, and the way that my personal doctor and I have approached it, is just to give me enough breathing room to work through the rest. And so I started the medication in March. And instantly I felt better, but not 100%. So I went on this medication for about 3 months, and then I went to my doctor and I was like, look, I'm still having panic attacks almost every week. I need help. And so we upped the dosage and we're like, we'll try this. And recently, I don't have as many panic attacks, and I'm not as depressed, and my life is a lot happier. It almost feels like living in black and white, and suddenly somebody gives you the ability to see color. And you'd seen color before, but you almost forgot what it felt like. And you got so used to living in black and white that when somebody gives you the color, you're almost overwhelmed. I didn't expect to get emotional. And the point of this video isn't to make people diagnose themselves and be like, well, I have anxiety attacks, so I must have anxiety. Like, maybe. And it's also not to make people feel bad about themselves or good about themselves or anything like that. It's more just a journal for myself. So hi Emerald. Nice to see you. It's me from the past. Hopefully things are better in the future. And recently, I've noticed that the panic attacks have come back, and it's not doing so good. And I have a lot of stress and anxiety when I'm driving, and I don't know why. And so I had kept a journal for a while, and I kind of fell off the rocker because journaling just kind of lost its interest for me, but I want to get back into it. But I had tracked what was triggering me so that I could avoid the triggers, and so I could just be aware of it. And that I noticed was that in very large crowds, there we go, it's fine, I'll just wait for you to focus on me, it's fine, it's not like that's your job or anything. Yeah, so I noticed in very large crowds, in areas where I had a lack of control, so driving, I don't have control over the other drivers. And in places where I just don't feel really welcome, that's where my anxiety's bad. So Costco, awful. IKEA, awful. Driving, awful. And so I was talking to somebody, a doctor, a mental health doctor, and he prescribed me another medication that is specifically for my anxiety. So now I have an antidepressant medication and an anti-anxiety medication. I've been on it for a few days, and I feel so much better. I almost had a panic attack literally earlier today, but it was manageable to the point where I felt it coming. I acknowledged what was triggering it, and I removed myself from the situation. And I managed to lower my heart rate to such a point where like I felt okay re-entering the situation without causing even more trauma. And I'm so proud of myself for getting the help that I needed. And like, obviously medication is not the answer for everybody. I was really anti-medication for the longest time, but then I realized when I have a headache, I take a Tylenol or some CBD. When you have menstrual cramps, you take a Midol. When you have sore muscles, you might take a Robax or whatever. So if my brain is hurting or my soul is hurting, why am I not helping it? Like, and that's not to say that like I expect to be on medication for the rest of my life, because hopefully not, but like if I am, awesome. I'll feel better. I'll feel more me, and I feel amazing because I feel like there's a girl that I once was, and there's a girl that I could have been, and then there's me. And I love me. And I'm still working on like the whole self-love thing. But mentally, I think I've improved compared to last year. And so that's like my yearly update. And yeah. I just wanted to make this video to kind of chat about it. And that's my journey. Not everybody's journey looks the same. And if it did, nobody would care to like educate themselves because it would all look the same. But because it's so different from person to person, I think that's why it's scary, and I think that's why people actually put in the work to do the research to find out the differences. So, I don't know. Let's set some goals. I mentioned in my self-love video that I want to work out twice a week, and I want to take myself on a date once a week. And I think those are great actionable steps to self-love as well as mental health. But I also want to start waking up at a regular time, like the same time every single day, whether that's 6:50 or 9 o'clock. Just waking up and going to bed at the same time has been proven to help your mental health along. And eating 3 regular meals, like proper, actual, healthy meals that are going to nourish your body, is huge. So that'd be great. And I want to stay off my phone as much as possible. Like, in the morning, I don't want to go on my phone and the first thing I do is open Facebook and check my memories, and then open Instagram and see if somebody's messaged me, and then I scroll through like Reels and TikTok and Facebook until my timers on each of them is timed out, and that's an hour and a half. I have an hour and a half cut out on my device, like half an hour for each app, every day. And every day I max it out. And I don't know why. I don't know why I'm like this, but I do. And I don't want to be that person. So It's fine. I'm not like right in front of you or anything. Hello? So yeah, that's a mental health thing. Thanks for listening to me. I'll talk to you later. Bye.